Welcome to the Ecomm Breakthrough Podcast. I'm Josh Hadley. I've scaled my own e-commerce brand from 0 to 8 figures, and I'm actively building towards 9 figures in sales. This podcast is where I document that journey and share the systems, the strategies, and the lessons learned in real time so that you can learn what actually matters and scale your own business. Fun fact, do you know that 99% of you are holding meetings the wrong way? Or there's probably a good portion of you that don't even hold meetings at all because you see them as unproductive, not worth your time, or you have no idea what to even be talking about in those meetings. Today, I'm going to share with you the 7 meeting operating system that I use in my own business in order to ensure that everybody's rowing in the same direction, that we're executing on the same strategies and tactics in order to scale to over 9 figures. First and foremost, who am I? My name is Josh Hadley. I am a man of faith, a father of 4, and a husband to a beautiful wife. I've been selling in the e-commerce space for over 10 years. You can see that we've been an 8-figure brand for quite a while, and we've been selling on many sales channels in the multi-millions in each of these channels on Amazon, TikTok Shop, and Shopify. And last but not least, host of the Ecomm Breakthrough Podcast, where I'm documenting and sharing my journey with you so that you can implement those same strategies to scale your own business. First and foremost, before we even get into meetings, one of the key takeaways is making sure that you understand the principle that systems and focus scale and distractions kill. That's the first principle that you need to understand, because if you understand that one principle, this will give you immense clarity for every meeting that you step into. Systems and focus scale, distraction kills. All right, so who of you listening can relate to this? Meetings feel like a waste of time. You don't know what to talk about in meetings. Your team seems disengaged in your meetings. Meetings seem to create more work instead of actually solving problems or the work. Meetings drain your energy instead of creating more momentum in your business. And you feel like you're the only one driving those meetings. All right. If you can relate to any of that, today I'm going to be sharing with you the exact system and the strategies to alleviate all of those problems and the pain that you're feeling. So how would you like to actually have your team treat your meetings like an operating system, where meetings aren't just about talking and they're not just about catching up on how the weekend was? Meetings are all about alignment. Meetings are about where decision velocity scales for your business, and where meetings are about actually accountability. All right. I want to introduce you to the scalable meeting cadence. This is the 7 meeting cadence that I use as our operating system in order to scale the team as we try to achieve 9 figures. So first and foremost, what is it that we do? I'll walk through each of these. Number 1, this happens on a weekly basis. Everyone in the business has a weekly 30 to 45 minute one-on-one meeting. And this happens with all of the leaders and their direct reports. So this doesn't just happen with me and my team members. What it does happen is every single person that is a leader or a manager of other people will sit down for 30 or 45 minutes every Monday, okay, in order to have a one-on-one meeting with them. So you may be asking what actually happens in there. We'll be sharing those next steps. But next, what we do is every week we have 2 kind of like, we call them leadership huddles. These are 15-minute leadership huddles where we discuss the priorities for the day and resolve roadblocks fast. On a weekly basis, on Wednesdays, we have our L10 leadership meeting. Those of you that are familiar with traction, that's kind of the verbiage that we're using here. Although we don't follow the EOS framework specifically, we took many of the principles from it. This is where we resolve issues, we align on company goals, and then this is where our team members and leaders report on their results. And then once a month, we have a company all hands meeting. This is where all team members join. We share our wins, we provide monthly goals and business priorities for the rest of the team. On a monthly basis, we also have a monthly financial review, P&L snapshot, channel performance, inventory and cash position, our ad spend and expenses. Everything is reviewed by the entire leadership team. Okay. And then quarterly, what we do is we have a quarterly strategic planning session with our leaders. This is where we review our annual plan, we adjust our goals, and we set targets for the next quarter. And then last but not least, we have our annual strategic planning meeting. This is where we identify and prioritize all of the correct goals and targets for the upcoming year that we are going to be focused on. So let's dive into each of these separately, and I'll kind of share with you exactly how we're implementing them in our business and give you like real clear takeaways and principles that you could go set up as agenda items or action items for your own brand. All right. As we go into each of these meetings, one of the first things to understand as well is that business strategy is nothing more than prioritizing limited resources in a world full of unlimited opportunities. And that's why the systems and the focus scale while distractions kill. So again, as we go back to these meetings, the reason why you want to have these meeting cadences is because there are unlimited things that you and your team members can spend their time on every day, every week, every month. And without these frameworks as meetings that establish credibility and accountability for your team, you are going to just begin kind of like getting diluted performance across your team, because they're going to start going off in the wrong directions because there's so many unlimited opportunities, but there is limited resources. Everybody has the same amount of time in a day. And your job as a leader is to ensure that the rest of your team is executing at their maximum productivity. And you do that by helping them establish their own set of clear goals and action items and tactics that they're going to execute every single week and every single day. So let's talk about this first. Let's dive into this weekly one-on-one meeting. So this is the meeting that I talked about that, to be honest with you, I think this is one of the most important meetings that we have on a weekly basis. And this is something that happens with every single team member on our team. It can be as somebody as junior as an entry-level customer service representative, all the way to working with my senior leadership team. This meeting is where you get clear alignment. So let's discuss what actually happens in here. So number one, we review last week's priorities and progress. So we go through, hey, let's talk about how last week went. Last week you mentioned that, hey, these would be your 3 key priorities. And then here were the separate like ad hoc tasks that you wanted to make sure get dragged across the finish line. So how did we do last week? How was the performance? Did anything not get done? And if something didn't get done, this is the best chance and opportunity for you to actually interact with that team member to understand, was it because you just got lazy, or was it because like something else urgent came up and we had to resolve that? And then if that's the case, you can help them understand whether that was the right choice to postpone one of those priorities for the week and try to tackle an urgent issue, or if you need to have a kind of a performance conversation to say, hey, I noticed that you didn't get this done. My expectation is that this has to be done this week. We can't keep postponing this and kicking the can down the road. So that's number one. Number two, this is where you have the chance to review their KPIs as well. So for every single team member's role, you should have at least 3 to 5 specific KPIs or key performance indicators that really measure the leading indicators that they should be working on. These should be something as specific as, let's say I'm managing somebody that's my supply chain manager. Well, I want to ensure that 99% of my products are in stock. And so if that's my KPI, then that team member needs to report. And if we're at 95% of the products are in stock, then that means that KPI is off track, right? It shows up as red on the performance tracker. And so that's one of the key things is like, you need to understand what are the core KPIs for every single role, so that every Monday you can review that with them and say, hey, you're meeting this target, you're meeting that target, but hey, it looks like we're slightly off over here. What are you doing this week to ensure that this gets back in the green, to ensure that this KPI is being hit? And again, it's these KPIs that then should drive the priorities for what they're working on that week. All right. So they should always be trying to prioritize the KPIs. How do I make them better? If something's falling behind, how do I actually correct course and ensure that I begin meeting the minimum qualifications? All right. Next, then we're going to go through the roadblocks and the bottlenecks. What is actually slowing them down? So again, if they're like, hey, I just wasn't able to get around to X, Y, or Z last week, that's where you drill in. It's not like, oh yeah, okay, well, thanks for letting me know. Let's try to do that this week. You don't want that to happen. Instead, what you want to be doing is like drilling down and saying, okay, well, why was that not completed? Was this like you bit off more than you could chew last week? You planned too many things? Or did something else urgent come up? Or like, what was the constraint here? Right? And then you want to identify whatever that constraint is. And oftentimes what ends up happening is they begin focusing on the wrong stuff. Oh, well, Joe reached out to me and he needed help setting up this thing for customer service. And it's like, that's great. I appreciate that you helped him out. But like next time, I need you to make sure that you get your priorities done that we agreed to at the beginning of the week before you go and assist Joe, or before you tackle this other like important issue, but maybe that wasn't so urgent. All right. So this is all about just like realigning, because like, look, in the universe, there's entropy, right? And what that means is like, if everything's just left alone, like things just begin to fall apart. They begin to decay. And that's exactly what happens with your team members. If you're not realigning with them every single week, entropy begins to happen. And what was once a clear priority that was discussed at the beginning of the year, here we are a month later, whatever time frame it is into the year, and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And so this is why you're just continuing to come back to those priorities. All right, so that's where step number 4 in these weekly one-on-one meetings is like coaching and skill development. Okay, you want to make sure like they're getting better every single week. You're going to give them feedback for their performance, like, and just be honest with them. This is the best. Like, you've got 30 and 45 minutes to encourage, inspire, and motivate your team. So don't just see this as like check. Like, get to know them and inspire them. Remind them about like their role that they play in the team and how important that role is, and whether they're winning or losing in their role. Because if you can just continue to inspire people and coach them and help them see the progress that they're making, it leads to just improved performance across the board. So much better than if you're just constantly trying to like penalize somebody, right? Or getting after them or telling them that they're doing something wrong. This is just as much about telling them everything that they're doing right as much as it is course correcting them. All right. And then 5th point here, as you go through your one-on-ones with your team members, you want to have forward alignment. What are your top 3 priorities that you are going to be focused on this week? I want them documented, and then we're going to come back and review that document the same time next week. And so that's the cadence that we follow with our team, is they will document and they come prepared to this one-on-one meeting with all of their priorities highlighted as either green, yellow, or red from last week. Green meaning it was accomplished. Yellow means it went off track because I was, held up by somebody else. Or red means, yeah, I should have got it done. I just didn't get it done. Okay. So we review this and that document on a weekly basis with them. And so they come to the meeting prepared with what happened last week and what they believe are going to be their 3 priorities this upcoming week. And then in that meeting, there may be things that we adjust on their priority list that they have for the upcoming week, but that's to be determined in that meeting. But they come prepared as if, hey, if I don't have any other feedback for you, you already should know your exact priorities for this week. So that is the weekly one-on-one meeting. This ensures from the beginning of the week on Monday that everybody begins rowing in the right direction. All right, so let's dive into our second meeting out of our 7-meeting operating system. Okay, so this is where we have 15-minute leadership huddles. In our brand, we do this every Tuesday and Thursday. All right, so what is this 15-minute huddle? What in the world are we actually talking about? This is how we actually kick off the day. All right, so this is one of the first meetings of the day. Maybe some of your team members may have started work maybe an hour before so that they can come prepared, etc. But this is the first meeting of the day. I don't schedule any other meetings until this meeting happens. All right, so the purpose of this 15-minute leadership huddle is it provides speed and alignment with all of your leadership team, right? So if you have leaders that are in your business, and I would say you like maximum, you want a core of like maybe like 4 or 5 team members that are joining this meeting. Okay. And in this meeting, they then need to be able to take that and distill it to their own team. So you're providing speed and alignment. Remember, distraction kills, and these huddles eliminate that distraction. Okay. So here's the agenda that we follow for these 15-minute huddles. Number 1, you want to share one win that happened yesterday. Okay. Number 2, I want you to share what are your top 3 priorities for today. As you look at the day, the beginning of today, what 3 things need to be true to have been accomplished today in order to say today was a success? All right. And then 3, any roadblocks or bottlenecks that they're facing, what is slowing them down? And then this way I can give them quick feedback. If it's just a quick answer, like I don't want to hold them up. If they just need a quick answer, direction, where they need to go, I want to get them going off on the right foot today. And first thing in the morning. And then lastly, are there any cross-team dependencies? So the reason why this is a team meeting is because like, hey, maybe supply chain needs help from the sales team, or maybe the finance team needs help from the sales team putting together the budget or the forecast, right? And so they can all coordinate in one time. And what we've seen is just like momentum begins to move even faster because it just provides an open forum for 15 minutes. And oftentimes we may even finish early. Maybe it only lasts 10 minutes and then we just move on with our days. But it creates immediate alignment. And here's the secret. One of the things is it forces each of your team members to actively plan their day. So instead of just reactively showing up for the day and be like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen today, or man, I would like to get this done, we'll see what comes, right? This actually like is a discipline saying, hey, what are the 3 things you need to get done today? And then you're going to be amazed with how much more work they get done in a week, just because like what originally was going to take them the week may begin to get done in certain days rather than weeks. All right, so let's go on to this next meeting. So the 3rd meeting out of our 7-meeting operating cadence, okay, is this L10 leadership meeting. This is something that we do every Wednesday, all right? So this is where we solve issues, we reinforce our priorities, we maintain accountability, and this is where we really accelerate the business, all right? So again, for those of you who have read the book Traction, it's a great book. We took many principles from that EOS, the Entrepreneur Operating System. We incorporated many of those principles here. We also incorporated many of the principles from Ryan Deiss's scalable operating system, and we incorporated them here as well. So really, this is our own hybrid model, and that's what I would encourage you to do. Every business is unique. And so what works for our brand may not work exactly for your business, but the principles are still going to be the same. So here's the overall like 5 kind of like agenda topics that we dive into. By the way, this is a 90-minute meeting. Okay. This is one of those meetings that never moves. This meeting happens all of the time. Nobody gets to skip this meeting. Now, if somebody's on vacation, that's fine. If somebody's sick, that's fine. But even if I am not able to attend because I'm attending a business conference or whatever it is that day, or I'm on vacation with my family, the business still executes this meeting. Okay. This is not a meeting that's just like, oh yeah, we'll try this if everybody's available or not busy. It's like, no, this meeting has to happen. All right. So number 1 on our agenda is we review the company-wide KPIs and scorecards. All right. So this is where we're going to go back and revisit the 3 big rocks or the 3 big priorities that we set out to accomplish at the beginning of the year. We're going to come back and revisit those. We're going to go through every team member's like individual KPIs, and they're going to report on them. And again, it's this sense of accountability. So on Mondays, they get to showcase their KPIs in front of me personally. But on Wednesday, it's in front of the leadership team. Okay. And again, you only want your immediate like senior leaders in this meeting. This is not a This is not a company-wide meeting. This is only like your serious leaders in the business that are actually like having other team members report to them. That's who's attending this, okay? So we go through the company-wide KPIs and the scorecards that we set out for. This is like the budget and the forecast that we set out to say, hey, we said we wanted to hit X revenue by the end of this week. Where are we at? Are we above? Are we under target? Okay. Number 2, this is where you're going to go through commitment follow-up. So we go through last week's action items from this meeting, and we go through and we say, hey, did this get completed? Any pending loose items, things that did not get tied up? That's where we kind of, again, provides more accountability. What things did we assign last week? Did they get accomplished? Yes or no? All right. Number 3, this is where the leaders report their big rocks and their KPIs. Okay. So we talked about the company-wide KPIs. Those are tracking towards our annual goals. Again, this is where the leaders are going to report their big rocks. So what are their 3 key priorities that they are focused on? And then did they make measurable progress towards those or not over the past week? And if not, why? Then that turns into an issue. So that's why step number 4 here on our agenda is like, now we are actually going to identify what the issues are in the business. Now, the issues definitely need to be tied into like the priorities for each of those leaders. Okay. So there should always be, the most important thing is like, there's no perfect business that's out there. And so understand that there are always going to be dumpster fires burning in your business. You just have to be able to, again, as a leader, your judgment becomes king as it relates to identifying which of these dumpster fires are you going to put out and why. Because your leadership team is going to surface issues that are happening. Maybe they are personnel issues on your team. Maybe they are, channel specific issues. Maybe it's a violation on a certain platform or things like that. But what you want to have them do is we're going to go through the issue. And if the leader presents the issue, they need to come to the table with 3 possible solutions to that issue. And then they need to recommend one solution to that issue. Okay. So that's where we incorporate, it's the 1-3-1 principle, right? Identify the one issue or the problem, then give me 3 possible solutions, and then recommend one of those solutions and why. So that this meeting doesn't just turn into like, I don't know, what do you think we should do? I don't know. Let me go think about it. Let me get back to you. That is not productive in this meeting. Saying, hey, let me get back to you, not what should be happening. So again, this is another one of those meetings where your team members need to show up prepared. This is not just like, oh, I'm just going to show up and see what they're going to talk about today. They need to be identifying the issues, coming with action plans, and then it's your job and the rest of the team's job, because they're all sitting on this same call with you, to be able to say, hey, yeah, I would also tend to agree with that recommendation as the solution to that problem. And guess what often happens? One issue is then going to have a downlying effect to another department. And then it allows you the chance to like collaborate and say, hey, yeah, that is a good idea. However, it's going to have a downstream impact over on my department. So I would actually maybe lean towards like implementing something like X, Y, or Z. So again, that's the power of like having your senior leadership team all on one call. This is a 90-minute meeting for you to go deep and identify the issues happening in the business. Have your senior leaders already come prepared with 3 recommended solutions. And then for you to be able to approve and make sure that everybody's moving forward in the same direction, because like there's so many overlaps across departments in every business. All right. And the 5th and final thing that you want to do is you want to confirm alignment and the action items that were agreed upon in that meeting. So if you go through these, and again, I'm not wanting surface level reports from my team members. I'm not wanting just surface level problems or solutions. This is where we dig deep into the business. And this is where you're able to provide the best like coaching, inspiration, and keep everybody aligned on their priorities and their KPIs in their role, and get everybody communicating cross-functionally with each other. One of my favorite meetings for sure. All right. Now let's talk about this fourth meeting in our meeting cadence. Okay. This is the monthly all hands meeting. This is where we unify the team. We reinforce the direction we're headed. We share wins with the team. We eliminate confusion across the company. So this is the one meeting that happens every month where everybody on our team, okay, even entry-level staff all the way up to the senior leadership team, everybody joins this meeting. So what do we go through in this meeting? This is a 60-minute meeting, and we go through our mission, our vision, and our core values. What we do is we actually have one team member read each of those. And when we get to the core value section, we actually ask every team member to say, hey, how have you seen somebody in the business emulate that core value in the business? So it gets them thinking, and it also gives them a chance to like shout out some of their team members that they've seen, I guess, exemplify extreme ownership or integrity or something like that, and then articulate it, because just reading the core value is pointless. I want people to understand how it actually applies into their work. So again, if your team members like, if you created a vision or mission statement 5 years ago and your team members can't recite it, or it seems very fuzzy or vague, this is the chance and opportunity to like continue to reiterate that vision, mission, and core values for the business. Then next, we're going to go through wins from the last month. Okay. So we're going to share, and we just like, this is, sometimes there's going to be awkward silence, especially at the beginning, but I turn it over to the team and I say, I would love for all of you guys, somebody share some wins that happened over the past month. And then you're going to get people that will begin chiming in, and we do this all remotely, right? So everybody's on Zoom, and they will just begin chiming in with like, oh, hey, by the way, this happened, and we moved the needle forward on this project, and hey, we launched this number of products. Like, really good things happen. And this is all just about like building momentum so that the rest of the team hears from other people like, wow, really good things are happening in this business. Here's the next kind of like agenda item is one of my absolute favorites. And I think this like really solidifies the culture of any business, but we want people to shout out each other and recognize other team members. So again, it may be crickets at first and maybe some awkward silence, but we wait until people are willing to voice their opinion and say, hey, I want to give a shout out to Jamie because she did an amazing job kind of identifying this new system that we're using, and it has saved me like probably 10 hours a week now because of like what she implemented. I just wanted to say thank you. And then somebody else is going to share, hey, I was struggling with this. So-and-so pointed me in the right direction. Just wanted to give them a quick shout out. Like, and guess what? We run this thing for like 10 minutes where it's just like people shouting out each other, and then it just becomes contagious. This is where people feel valued. This is where people feel loved. This is where people sink their souls into your business, and they are motivated to show up because they feel appreciated. They feel appreciated by their colleagues, and they feel the momentum building in the business because everybody's helping each other achieve the same goal and vision and mission of the business. And then action item number 4 that we have here in this all hands meeting is we share our upcoming monthly goals. So again, we go back all the way to our annual planning. We've got our quarterly plans, and then this is where we share those like monthly plans. Okay, what are going to be the priorities? And then each department leader from our senior leadership team is going to share, hey guys, here's the key priority that we're working on. And then again, it just keeps everybody aligned. And then the last thing that we do is we just open it up for some Q&As or just like extra, ancillary updates that we have from the business that we want to share. All right. The next meeting that we have in our meeting cadence operating system here is the monthly financial review meeting. My goodness, if you are not doing this, you are like flying the airplane blind, right? And it is extremely challenging for you to continue going in the right direction if you're not at least taking a look back in that rear view mirror to see what has happened in the past so that it can guide your future decision making. So what you're going to do is this This allows you to understand the financial performance of your business. It's going to allow you to spot early warning signals, maybe start making some course corrections, and ensure that you have the cash to actually grow the way that you are currently growing right now. There have been a number of companies that actually go out of business because their growth is so high and they didn't plan accordingly, and they end up bankrupting themselves because they plan for this massive growth, and either it does come to fruition and they're out of cash, or they take on so much debt trying to fund extra growth that then if growth ever slows, they've got too much inventory, they've got too much whatever, and then they go bankrupt. So that's why this is becoming like one of the most key fundamental meetings in the business, to where I have a really good pulse of like the direction the business is heading and the overall health of the business as well. Okay, so in this meeting, we are going to go through our profit and loss statements. Okay, so we'll review it on the 20th of every month. We review the previous month. So for in January 20th, I'm going to be reviewing December's performance. Okay, we're going to go through channel level performance. So if I'm selling on multiple channels, then I'm going to say, hey, how did Amazon do? Okay, how did Shopify do? How did TikTok Shop do? Tell me what my profit and loss is for each of those channels, because guess what I'm looking for? I'm looking for like, which is the easiest of these, channels or levers that I can pull to say, oh my goodness, there's more juice to squeeze here, and I'm going to double my efforts there. So extremely, extremely important to understand like what's actually driving your profit and success, or maybe the lack thereof. Maybe it's a channel that's like, oh, I didn't know I was losing so much money over here. We're going to stop that. Okay. Inventory and cash on the balance sheet. The balance sheet is one of the most important financial statements to look at. If you're not familiar with the balance sheet, I would encourage you to go do a YouTube search and go educate yourself on how to read a balance sheet, because this is where you're going to identify, is my cash increasing, or is my inventory outpacing my cash? And are my accounts payable increasing faster than I even have cash to pay it? Super important, like financial statement to look at. I'm then going to look at my ad spend performance. For any e-commerce brand or any business in general, everything starts and revolves around marketing, right? And so you want to make sure that it's efficient, but what you want to do is ensure that like every dollar is accounted for in terms of like, hey, if I spend more on Amazon, what does that lead to for future revenue dollars? Okay. This is where a lot, like, honestly, marketing expenses are one of your biggest line items for any business. And so having like really clear understanding and KPI that you're trying to measure its performance is essential. And then last thing that I want to do as I go through this is I want to look at unnecessary operating expenses. These are going to be, hey, how much, I'm reviewing how much I'm paying team members, but most importantly, where it's a death by 1,000 cuts is software expenses. Softwares that you're not even using anymore, can you close some of those out? All right, next we're going to get into our quarterly strategic planning meeting. This is where you decide what matters and what dies. In this quarterly planning meeting, it's all about focus. You're going to review last quarter's goals. Then you're going to identify the company's top constraints in the business, define the company level priorities, okay? And then department leaders share their upcoming quarterly goals, quarterly and monthly goals as well. So this quarterly planning session, like, we do it at the business level to say, hey, where are we going as a business as a whole? And then each department leader, each of my senior leaders will then go and do the same thing and create 3 specific priorities for their department that they need to accomplish over the next quarter. And then they need to break it down by like each month as well. Hey, for the month of, if we're looking at Q3, hey, for the months of July, these are going to be my goals. For the month of August and September, here's what I'm going to be working on. And this is what needs to be accomplished for me to do my part, maybe in the supply chain aspect, so that if I do my part in the supply chain aspect, it rolls up to the bigger company-wide initiative and bigger priority that we have there. So this isn't just like me as the leader saying, hey guys, this is where we're going. No, it's, hey guys, this is where we're going. Now I need each of you to distill and take my 3 priorities for the overall business and document what are the 3 priorities for your individual role and department that you need to execute on that can then help achieve the overall company priorities and goals. So super, super important. And again, reviewing the previous month and quarter progress also just provides a sense of accountability. And this is where if you just see people like, oh, sorry, didn't get around to it. If that's like repeating over and over again, this is where it provides that coaching opportunity. All right. Now, last but not least, this is a key. This is where it all begins, is your annual strategic planning meeting. Annual planning is about deciding the game that you are about to play for the next 12 months. So here's what you want to do. Create a company-wide goal. That's you as the CEO. Typically, this is going to be like very revenue driven and sales channel driven. Okay. And then you're going to identify what are the top 3 priorities or levers that you are going to actively focus on to help you achieve that one goal that you have for the business. Then below those 3 priorities, you're going to define the 5 strategies or basically tactics, action items that need to be accomplished in order to achieve one of those priorities. So every priority then has a list of 5 kind of like strategies of how we're going to achieve that priority. Okay. We decide the owner for each of these priorities from, and then one leader from each of the leadership team or departments owns one of those 3 priorities so that we have somebody that actually has their butt on the line, so to speak. Annual planning is not a brainstorming session. Everybody comes prepared. And me as the CEO, like I'm preparing them in advance saying, hey, here's the company-wide goal. Now, before we get to that meeting, I want you to begin preparing like, what is it that you need to do in your departments in order to correct processes, ensure that we're going to be able to achieve this company-wide goal. So the CEO sets the direction, the leadership team then builds the route, and everybody else is the people that go and execute that plan. All right. So we went through our 7 meeting cadence operating system. So here's what my action items for you after listening to this podcast episode is go take a screenshot of this cadence. If you just listen to this audibly, go take a look at this episode on YouTube. We publish everything on YouTube, but go take a screenshot of that cadence. Okay. And it goes all the way back to the beginning of this podcast, and then go implement it with your team. And then if you enjoyed this episode, if you would do me the kindness of leaving a review, and 3, go and share this episode with an operator who needs it. If you know somebody that's been challenged with, hey, I'm trying to get my team going in the right direction, I feel like it's all over the place, like please send this to them. That's probably like the biggest blessing that you could give to somebody. And remember, systems and focus scale, and distraction kills. So good luck with your meetings. Make sure you get everybody rowing in the same direction. And I know that if you implement these 7 meeting operating systems, you will create more momentum and clarity in your business and move everybody in the right direction.